Alright, for this video I'm going to go over the Kanai Cube, the Heroic Cache. You have to unlock it once per account for adventure mode, once per account for season characters, and once per account for hardcore characters. Once per account for hardcore season characters. It's unlocked by going and finding a certain room in the Ruins of Shesharon in Act 3. I'm just going to go over different benefits to the cube. While you're leveling up, there's many benefits. As you get legendary gear, you're going to want to come in, bring up your recipe book, and the very first recipe allows you to extract the legendary power. You can extract once, and it's good for across the account for each legendary. The benefits to this are simply this. You can have 3 different legendary abilities or benefits constantly, no matter what gear you have on. Depending on if you're leveling, how you're leveling, what your build is, these 3 pieces here can be the make or break of a build. Since I use the Whirlwind set, the Wrath of the Waste set of Barbarian armor, I need anything I can to help boost this set's damage output and survivability. So for me, I went with the Skullgrasp Ring, which increases the damage of Whirlwind by 400%. Since Whirlwind is my bread and butter, that's where I spin around in a circle, I need it to do as much damage as it can. For the armor piece, I chose Mantle of Channeling for the simple effect that while I am in Whirlwind, I will deal 25% more damage no matter what skill I use, and I will take 25% less damage. And since I am Whirlwind almost 100% of the time, that means 100% of the time I'm doing 25% more damage and taking 25% less damage. For my weapon, in my cache, I use Ambo's Pride. This, while I'm attacking with Whirlwind, which I am constantly doing, it also applies Rend. And the total damage of Rend is dealt over 1 second, which is pretty nice. As you can see down here, Rend wounds nearby enemies, causing 1,350% weapon damage. Which, with Ambo's Pride, means that I'm going to do 1,350% of my weapon damage every second, as long as I'm whirlwinding. And since whirlwinding, I am doing 340% of my weapon damage, I'm doing a fair amount of damage. Adding in the 400% and the 25%, it stacks up to a pretty massive amount of damage. For my actual gear, as I said, I run the 6-piece Wrath of the Waste set. I do this because, as you can see, the 2, 4, and 6-piece sets are set bonuses. 2-piece set increases the damage per second of Rend by 500% and increases its duration to 15 seconds, which means that 1,350% is then multiplied by 500%, and then it is done in 1 second because of Ambo's Pride. The 4-piece set means while I'm whirlwinding and for 3 seconds afterwards, I gain 50% damage reduction. Add that with the armor piece I have in the Kanai Cube, and I'm now taking 75% less damage. The added benefit of the 4-piece bonus is my applied Rends deal triple damage. So now Rend is doing 500% damage and is doing it within 1 second, and that is now multiplied by 3. The 6-piece set is Whirlwind gains the effect of the Dust Devil's rune, which causes me to shoot out little Dust Devils, which do pretty decent damage as long as I'm whirlwinding. And all whirlwind and rend damage is now increased by 10,000%. So we get 10,000, 50%, 500%, 400%, 25%. That's a lot of damage stack up. Right now I don't really have a really great necklace for my barbarian. I'm just using a primal ancient because of the 100% critical damage and the 10% increased critical chance. On there I have the Bane of Stricken Gem, which increases every attack I do against a mob, increases the damage it takes by 1.69% right now. It also gives me a 25% increased damage against all bosses and Rift Guardians. Those are Act bosses, Sub-Act bosses, and Rift Guardians. For my belt right now, I'm using Lamentation for the simple effect of Rend can now stack up to 2 times on an enemy and does 110% more damage. Which means all of those bonuses to Rend, I'm now stacking it up twice on every mob, and it goes off every 1 second and then reapplies as long as I'm attacking. That's how I kill very, very fast and kill a lot of mobs. For my forearms in this build, I am using the Mortix Brace to give my Wrath of the Berserker every rune, which this is my Wrath of the Berserker. It basically increases all of my damage, increases my critical chance, my attack speed, my dodge chance, and my movement speed, as well as increasing my fury, my life gained for every bit of fury spent. And since Whirlwind costs 10 fury for every second it's active, I'm generating a lot of health. For my rings, I use the Bastions of Will set, which is Focus and Restraint. I do this for these 2-piece sets. There's 2 bonuses. The first bonus is while I am spending resources, I deal 50% damage. When I hit with a resource generating attack or a primary skill, I deal 50% increased damage. And since I am hitting with Whirlwind, which spends resource, I am constantly doing 50% more damage. I don't usually hit very often with a primary or a resource generating attack, simply because I don't need it. And I don't need it because of my weapons. For my weapons, I use the Bulkathos Oath set. It's 2 weapons. Both of them are mighty weapons. They're barbarian only. And I do this for the simple effect. Increases fury generation by 15. During Whirlwind, you will gain 45% increased attack speed and movement. I never run out of fury. I can continually Whirlwind all the time, never stop. And as you can see, my red bar here for fury never moves. Even though I'm spending 10 fury every second I'm whirlwinding. Altogether, this set plus my cube abilities plus my skills builds the Whirlwind Barbarian. For my skills, I have my left click set to Rend. We've already went over what Rend did. I have my secondary skill set to Whirlwind, and that's because I use my right click to move, and that makes me Whirlwind constantly. For my actionable bars, which are number keys 1 through 4, I have Ignore Pain, Ignorance is Bliss rune. Ignore Pain causes me to reduce all damage taken by an additional 50%. and gives me immunity to all controlling effects such as root, stun, fear for 5 seconds. Ignorance Bliss just gains me life for every fury I spend, while Ignore Pain is active. For my secondary one, my number 2, I use Warcry with the Impunity rune. Warcry increases my armor for me and anybody I'm partnered with, including my helper. Increases it by 20% for 120 seconds. The Impunity rune adds on the effect of increases resistance to all elements by 20% while I have Warcry going. I constantly have Warcry active, so I'm gaining both of those benefits continually. My third one is Battle Rage. It basically increases my damage by 10% and my critical chance by 3%. Once again, it lasts 120 seconds and I'm able to keep it active 100% of the time. I use Marauder's Rage skill rune to increase the damage bonus on it to 15%. And finally, for my last ability, I use Wrath of the Berserker, Thrive on Chaos rune. Wrath of the Berserker, as I explained a while ago, raises all of my attributes for 20 seconds. It increases my critical chance, attack speed, dodge chance, and movement speed. The Thrive on Chaos increases my life per fury spent. The passive abilities I use are Unforgiving, which means I no longer degenerate fury when I'm just standing. Without this, if I am not attacking, I am losing 2 fury every second. I use Berserker's Rage, which increases my damage by an additional 25% while I'm at maximum fury. Since I am at maximum fury 100% of the time, I am always doing 25% more damage. I use Weapon Master. I do this because swords and daggers increase damage, and my mighty weapons increase my fury per hit. I use 2 mighty weapons that are both swords, so I am generating 2 more fury per every hit, and I am dealing an extra 16% damage. And finally, I use Rampage, which increases my strength by 1% for 8 seconds after killing or assisting in killing any enemy. It stacks up to 25 times, which means I am constantly getting a 25% strength boost as long as I am attacking. And since strength is, of course, my primary damage attribute, I need as much of it as I can. If you find that you do not have any issues with Fury, you can change Unforgiving out to one of the other abilities that may benefit you a little bit more, such as Relentlessness. It's a life save, a death save. There are several other options that you can go with. I simply stick with this for the ease of the play. This is the Barbarian gear in Kanai's Cube.